It's Monday, April 18th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, crypto ransomware and why it can really only fuck you if you're dumb.
Let's do this.
Oh my god, it's
warm.
Yeah, it was
warm
it was
today.
warm, and then it was cold, it was warm, and it was cold, then I thought it was summer, then it snowed, and finally, not only is it warm, but it was like 80 degrees today, and I biked to work. In fact, I didn't even do, usually there's a bunch of stuff I do to my bike, because I grease it up in the winter, because I do use it occasionally, salt and all that nastiness, so I put heavy grease on, and then I switch it for summer grease in the spring. I hadn't done the switch up yet, because the weather had been coming and going, but it was so nice today, I was like, fuck it, and I just biked to work anyway, and halfway through the bike ride, of course, squeaky, 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 squeaky. So I've stopped and bought some Teflon and lubed it up, and it's spring now, and we bike to work every day. I feel real good.
So, I'm sure at this point in time, was it like 2015, 2016 now?
It's
right?
2016.
Yeah, people have heard like this baby metal thing that's going around, right?
Yeah.
And because I knew about this a long time ago, right? As I tend to know about a lot of things in advance because I internet so much. But what happens is I'll be like, man, there's this thing. I knew about it before you. I'm so cool, like a hipster. But in this case, I was so wrong. I was the wrongest that you could be.
All right.
When I first saw baby metal, which was like, I think they started like way back when they were in like middle school. And at that point, they were in middle school, they were really small, and they didn't have a band or anything. It was actually sort of like an offshoot of like a regular old idol group or whatever, right? And when I first saw it, it was pretty much just, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's a weird Japan thing. I've seen those like a million times. I mean, how many Japan things like that have we seen?
That was the era where Weird Japan was just like an even regular old pop culture.
Right. It's like you always see, oh, there's another thing that's weird from Japan. They combined two things that hadn't been combined before, or they took something from someone else and redid it, right?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, they made an idol group that happens to have metal music in the background. That's a cute one-shot thing, right? And then... I saw it again, and I'm like, maybe like 2 years ago, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I saw it again. And I'm like, I guess that kept going, that thing, right? It's still not really a big deal, right? It's a
weird thing. It's not commonly known.
It's just it's just a J-pop idol group that's not good. It's like Perfect Blue, only it's metal, right? Big deal, right? So, and they were like, I know that they opened when like Lady Gaga had this weird tour in 2014, I think, that was like the art pop tour, the art rave or something, because Crayon Pop opened for that. And like she originally wanted Crayon Pop to open for the whole thing, but they couldn't. So Baby Metal opened for the other ones, right? And I was like, I guess they're still around, right? But I didn't really care.
Curious where this is going.
Right. I didn't care or like them at all, right? So then, of course, recently, I'm sure now everyone knows who they are because they performed on Colbert's show, which used to be Letterman's show, which has a history, actually, if people aren't aware, of letting weird acts perform at the end of the show. Like, going back to, like, Pee Wee Herman and even earlier, right? Yeah. It's like a lot of people became famous, in the United States because their weird-ass act was able to perform on that show, regardless of who was hosting it, right? So now everyone knows who they are. So, because they came back again, and, like, this is, like, I've seen them now multiple times over the years, I was like, why? Like, why are they still here, right? This is, like, a one-shot gimmick deal, right? Isn't this a gimmick? How is this gimmick continuing to last?
Well, is it a gimmick if you're the only one? I mean, they're not quite Gwar level of, like, having the Legend of Krauser happening there.
That is how I was wrong. Because after they appeared on Colbert, I said, why are they still here, this gimmick? Why is this not gone? This one-shot deal. So I looked into it. And secretly, without me noticing, for these past 2 years, they have done something that I didn't realize could be done, right?
All right.
And that is, they are not what I thought they were. I thought that they were a Japanese idol group that happened to have metal music in the background, right? Of their regular idol songs and whatever, right? That is not what they are. Baby Metal is actually a completely legit metal band that happens to have Japanese idols.
Wait, so you'd never listened to them? Like, you never...
No. It's not. I mean, it's not the music that is legit, right? Well, first of all, when they got a band to back them up instead of just like a recording, that helped a lot because the band that backs them up, known as the Kami Band, right? The God Band, is like literally they went around Japan and got like the best drummer, the best guitars, the best people that they could find. Right, and they made this band. Like the drummer used to be in the Blue Man Group, and the bassist is like this.
Used to be in the Blue Man Group is not as significant.
It's not easy to be in the Blue Man Group.
I know, but I'm saying there's a lot of them.
You got to be talented to be.
I'm saying there's a lot of them. Like there's a lot of skilled percussionists in the world.
He's really good, right?
I'm not saying he's not.
The bassist is some crazy sick.
There's a lot of blue men.
Dude. There are many. Yes. But anyway, right? So they got like the totally like the sickest band that you could get of Japanese musicians or whatever. But like if you go online and look for performances that aren't, say, on late night American TV, it's like they've been performing at like gigantic music festival in the UK with like 100,000 metalheads and shit, right? And I realized watching this that like, oh my God, this was the secret that all the other Japanese shit has not been able to do, right? It's like if you look at like, you go to the comic book store, for example, right? And you see the manga, and the manga is separate, right? It's not with the other comics. It's Japanese comics. It's Japanese first and comics second.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. So they were just popular among metal people, but not as a Japanese weird thing, just as metal.
Yes, every metal band has a gimmick, right? You know, Blind Guardian has a Lord of the Rings gimmick, right?
What was Metallica's gimmick?
No, they don't have a gimmick. That's their gimmick. So they're the only metal band that doesn't have a gimmick. AC/DC has like the schoolboy thing going on, right? It's like, you know, it's like Machine Supremacy has the Commodore 64 thing going on.
Yep.
You know, Rammstein has the ridiculous stage things going on.
The flaming penises
right,
out over the audience.
Every metal band you can think of has some kind of gimmick, right? This is Baby Metal is a completely normal metal band, right? Of relatively moderate to high quality, and that just has, and their gimmick just happens to be Japanese high school girls, right? And I realized all the other Japanese stuff that can't break in, right, is because it's all the other cool Japan shit, right? Is because it makes itself Japanese first instead of what it is first.
Like we've always said, you know, not that it's not Wednesday, but with anime, just take a show that would be, you know, appeal to a demographic and just put it on TV.
So it's the fact that they're still there and they're that as big as they are. I didn't realize just how big they were is proof, right? That the things that we've been saying all along are true and would really work if you were smart enough to try them. And apparently whoever runs this shit there at Baby Metal Incorporated knows what the hell they're doing.
Are they actually Baby Metal Incorporated, or did you just call them that because
it's something entertainment company?
Okay, I just wondered if you were like Baby Metal Incorporated because that's literally what they are technically called.
I mean, Baby Metal's probably making all the money that they make now.
Yeah,
I can't imagine the other idol groups they have or whatever. I can't imagine they're making a lot of money, right? So actually, they have some crazy world tour going on now, right? Which is why they were performing and whatnot, because I guess their second album came out at the beginning of April or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I wonder where this world tour is going. The world tour is ending in like some extravaganza at the Tokyo Dome, like later in the year.
I'm not going to that.
It's going to be in New York on May the 4th.
Star Wars Day.
And it was sold out. So I'm like, oh well.
StubHub.
I went on StubHub, and you know what? It was cheap.
Oh, do you get tickets?
I bought one ticket.
I guess maybe I should go.
I figured, why not?
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
I'm not going to Hong Kong.
It's
on
Wednesday. It's on Wednesday, and it's like 4 blocks from my office. And it's like, well, why be alive if I'm not gonna go? It's right there.
I may also get tickets then.
And it's at the I guess it's now. It used to be.
Is it seating or like GA?
It's GA, so
okay,
it's that.
Making sure.
It's at the PlayStation Theater, which used to be the Nokia Theater, which used to be.
I know where that is.
Yeah, I think we saw Blind Guardian there.
We did see Blind Guardian there,
right? So,
in fact, that was one of the Rim is an Old Man concerts because we went and it was great. There was the front, Rivers moshing, whatever, and we all went to the back and sat in those seats and just enjoyed the concert, sitting there enjoying the music.
I got new earplugs too. I haven't used them yet.
Yeah,
but yeah. So, like, I've been sort of like, once I realized what I had missed, right, that's sort of, it's all on Spotify, by the way. all their music. So that sort of occupied my brain for like a whole day. As soon as I realized what I had not paid attention to and was wrong about.
So in terms of occupying people's brains, this is most people are associating what I'm about to bring up with games, the video game industry, all that, but it is equally associated but less talked about in tech and almost every modern profession that involves coding, technology, art, anything. And while this is not specifically technology, it is really important to talk about, and it's also so close to all these issues. And
this guy.
Yeah, this guy.
Okay.
And so it's like, yes, we know this is not technically technology, but it's too close to home. And never before has there been an individual person who so exemplifies these toxic fucking attitudes. Like, I cannot...
Right, I mean, well, this is something that is a constant rumble with occasional spikes, right? But this is the largest spike in this discussion that has ever occurred so far. Despite me constantly trying to make it spike, I haven't been able to do so. I guess you need the troll to make it spike and not the smart person.
Well, I think part of the reason it's spiking is that Alex St. John, the shithead we're about to talk about, is in video games.
No relation to John St. John.
No, who is amazing.
Oh, he's in video. That's right. The video game aspect brought in the extra community power and not just the... Because the last spike was the second biggest spike was the EA guy.
Yeah.
Right? And that was also games. I haven't seen a lot of spikes in this just in pure technology area.
And I think it's partly because game development, like, people assume and expect both publicly and privately that it's awful, but this is more whispered in technology. Like, you don't have
I don't think it's whispered. I think it's just, I think technology people like it.
Okay, so I'll put it this way. I have never seen someone who has a slideshow of the presentation he gave on how to hire people that literally spells out. It'd be like if the Communist Party in Soviet Russia legit was like, here's the slide on how we will oppress the worker. Here's the slide on how this is just Animal Farm. Like, it is. So the deal is, someone, Dean Takahashi, just wrote this article, which was pretty smart. And he's basically like, look.
Yeah, he's an okay guy. I know him.
He's like, look, video games have a problem in that we have perpetual crunch, like due to poor planning and poor expectations and exploitation. We expect video game developers to work 70, 80-hour weeks when there's literally no reason for it to be that way.
Nope.
And Alex St. John on VentureBeat decided to write an article in response to that. What I'm reading from is Rami Ismail, who wrote a response to Alex St. John's response to Dean Takahashi, where he basically eviscerated this guy. But the gist of the article was that people in video games, but you can apply this orthogonally tech, obviously, need to work crazy hours and not have hobbies outside of their work and dedicate their entire lives to their job, or else they've fallen victim to the the wage slave attitude. And he goes on and on about how you should feel privileged to work like this. All you're doing is pushing a mouse around. You're not doing real work. So why do you feel like you should have to only work like 40 hours? Why do you feel like you should go home and see your kids?
Because I'm not a loser like you who has a life.
Yeah.
I have things to do but I only work because I have to, not because I want to. It's not my fault that you have nothing in your entire life other than work that fulfills you, and you're a pile of human garbage.
And he's basically arguing that the idea of work-life balance is a myth and that you cannot exist in the games industry.
That sounds like someone who has no life and just wants no others to have a life because that makes him feel bad that he has none.
It's a lot like... we gave Cliffy B a chance when he gave that keynote at PAX. I was like, you know what? I'll hear this guy out.
I mean, I've listened to David Jaffe. I'll listen to Cliffy B. Cliffy B is better than David Jaffe still.
That is true. That is true.
That doesn't say he's good. Well, he's a less smelly poop of the same flavor.
Well, because Cliffy B's poopiness...
They're both poops. One of them is like a diarrhea, and one of them just some turds.
But Cliffy B's didn't really come out until later, when unrelated to that keynote, he said a bunch of crap online. We're like, okay, we get you.
He seemed at the keynote like he knew better, and he was trying, but he just couldn't hide it.
Yep.
He couldn't hold it in.
But him too, like this, they have this like ridiculous idea of how tech workers should live their lives. And they're sort of building this narrative to try to almost demonize people who have social lives or
'Cause they don't.
want to work 40 or 50 hours a week tops and do other things in the rest of their time. And it wouldn't be that much news, except that because of this teardown of it, everyone's talking about this.
Finally, I've been trying to get people to talk about this for a long time. Because all you see on the startup things are people glorifying the, eat ramen, live in a startup house, get paid with, lottery tickets kind of culture. And every place that calls me to try to hire me has that culture. And I say, fuck you, right? And that makes it pretty hard to find any place to work besides where I'm working.
Exactly.
Because even though this guy seems like a crazy evil person, why, if he's so crazy evil, and he's like a rare case of this crazy evil, how come every single tech startup is doing basically what he says, even if they're not writing the articles that Alex St. John is writing? There's someone who runs the place has his attitude because all their people are working ridiculous hours and not having lives.
Yep. I mean, basically, if you ever
I went to interview at a place, there were people, they had a fancy kitchen. People were cooking and eating dinner in there as like a group, like it was a family. And it's like, whoa, get the fuck out of here. No way am I working here.
Now, I could see situations, I know you wouldn't do this, but like if I owned a company or if I really cared about something, like say
this guy, Alex St. John, owns a company. He really cares. He expects his workers to care as much as he does.
I don't think he actually really cares, because reading everything he's written, it feels a lot like Cliffy B's stuff, where these are like the rent takers in the industry who aren't actually personally contributing that much.
No, I mean, managers don't contribute much in general.
They do, I think, in well-functioning organizations. But like the problem is, like in video games, people expect like, you're going to have to work like crazy hours for the last 8 months of game development. Like, no, that means you fucked up way earlier in the project. And now you're choosing to pay that cost with the lives of your workers instead of just by pushing out deadlines.
So, whenever we talk about like, project management, especially in software, we always talk about the space shuttle, right? And we're like, we're not building the space shuttle. What the fuck do we care, right?
Because you had that article about how they built the space shuttle.
Yeah, there was actually an article I read recently that was like, here is actually the software process they use to write the space shuttle software. And I was like, now we know exactly how they do it. And it's like, well,
it's not agile.
No, it's not agile. And also, now I know exactly to what extents I never have to go. Because unless I'm not...
So you know what sucks? Well, that doesn't really suck that much.
But also, if you're building something super serious like a space shuttle, why aren't you doing what they do?
So in my industry, Wall Street crap, I
not
actually
as
do
important
both.
as the space shuttle.
So I have some projects, like some things that don't matter that much. So yeah, agile, let's just push out a build, let's just go. And there's other things where I will personally spend like 6 months writing a spec, like a giant book of the Bible that says, here's what this thing needs to do and here's how it needs to be architected. Mm-hmm. That is like 100%, like the stakeholders have signed off, like the regulators, like everyone is like, this is exactly what we're building. We understand it 100% and then we build it. Not everything I do needs to be that way, but that's kind of orthogonal to this point. So I want you all
But the point is that if you do that kind of stuff, right, these management hours issues aren't an issue, right? Right? That's how it's related.
Well, it's a matter of
if you're building things the right way and not, doing some agile nonsense bullshit, then you know exactly how long things are going to take. You can hire the right amount of people and divide the labor properly.
You might be wrong, but there's a big difference.
Your estimate's going to be way less off than 8 months of crunch.
There's a big difference between, oh shit, we're falling a little behind. Can everyone work one extra weekend and we're fine? And then I'll give you all vacation after the game's out versus, 8 months of 80-hour weeks. Oh, and we're still behind, so... But I really want all of you, gaming industry, tech industry, everything, to read every word that this jackass wrote, because you need to understand that this is exactly what the people who ask you to work late day after day are thinking in their heads.
I also want to just remind people, the reason that these people can get away with this attitude is because people agree to work for them, and people who do work for them don't unionize and don't assert themselves, right? If you go and someone like asshole like this is trying to hire you, I don't care how badly you need a job, say fuck no, right? I mean, would you rather if you're unemployed...
There's a level of privilege there, Scott, in that I can pretty much get a job anytime I need to. If I was between
Even if I
rent,
couldn't get a job, I would rather work at Starbucks than work at some ridiculous asshole place like this. right? I'll just move out of my apartment rather than destroy my entire life for someone else. What's the point of being alive? What is the point of being alive if you're spending all your time just sacrificing all of your young years, your years of youth that you're able to work, right? Giving 100% of your entire mental capacity to this other person for their garbage, whatever the fuck it is.
So,
right? I would rather just be poor than do that.
It goes way beyond that, and that it really illustrates the sort of tech bro bullshit.
And if everyone has the attitude I have, then those people won't be able to force anyone to do that anymore because nobody will agree to work for them.
You really need to look at the slides that this guy posted.
I looked at those slides.
Yeah.
If I was at that presentation,
Rule
I'd go buy tomatoes and come back.
You don't recruit and retain male engineers. You recruit and retain wives and girlfriends. If the wife or girlfriend is unhappy, the engineer is gone. The paycheck goes to her.
You didn't let me finish about putting the rocks in the tomatoes.
But like he has advice. Where's the thing that like here it is. Be on the lookout for I'm quoting this guy. Be on the lookout for the Holy Grail, the undiscovered Asperger's engineer. And then what follows is literal advice on how to find someone with Asperger's syndrome and trick them into ruining their lives to make your company profitable.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally what your jackass boss is thinking and trying to do.
Yep.
So I look forward to the continued just general discourse.
These are the people
this.
who venture capitalists lend money to instead of lending them to someone like me, because they'd rather have some asshole have the money to make the world a shittier place than have me go to the beach and make the world a better place by not bothering anybody.
Yep, that's why I'm very very happy in some regards to the decisions I've made in my life in terms of the places, like the last place I worked. All my bonuses and everything were in lottery tickets. You know what? That lottery did not come in. But you know what?
That's a shock.
But they paid me enough money to make rent in the meantime, and I only worked 40 hours a week.
Yeah, well, this guy doesn't sound like the kind of guy who's going to pay enough cash. He looks like he's lottery tickets only.
Yeah, I get job offers.
I actually read something interesting today where there's some sort of like Wall Street is souring on certain companies, like say Twitter, who pay their employees with lots and lots of stock and not a lot of cash.
Yeah,
because it's starting to cause some issues. Like, do you actually have any money to pay these employees? Are they gonna, it's like,
yeah. Well, so it's interesting because retention in those spaces is a big problem. But it's interesting in video games, retention is a problem because people get burned out and ruin their lives and just quit in disgust eventually. Like after it hit a bottom, like they hit rock bottom, and someone tells them to quit, and then they finally do because they're going crazy.
Right.
But in finance,
it's a grass is always greener thing, right? You're working at some job where you hate your coworkers, but you have a life and you get money, and you look at this game job and maybe it pays more, and you see all these cool coworkers because they're all game people, and you're like, oh man, what a better life that is. Yeah, you see the grass is greener. You look at the things you don't have, and you see that game job, and it has the things you don't have now, so you move to it, and you don't realize the parts that were worse.
But see, that's the difference. The guys...
You gotta have the priorities in order. Your life is number one priority. That's the only reason that you are working is because you need to work in order to live. If we had Diamond Age, we wouldn't work.
But at least in other industries...
If we had Star Trek,
like
we wouldn't work.
Finance and a lot of technology, the people usually make a lot of money, and while they're still ruining themselves, they at least have a giant salary the whole time. But in games, you don't even get that. So if you're going to burn yourself out and make these very poor decisions, at least do it on Wall Street, because then at least you'll be making six figures.
I know someone who works for Bloomberg, right? And they don't tell me how much money they make, but they've told me how they make a lot of money, and they're planning to retire very, very early. Like 40s early.
I was looking at, so actually Bloomberg has a job posting that is literally...
Bloomberg pays really, really well.
I know. They
and
called
it's actually,
me.
And it's not like some miraculous culture that's like the best thing ever, but it's actually it's an okay culture over there, right? They don't make people work ridiculous hours.
So you want to hear something really funny?
And they have all sorts of luxuries in the building.
I get repeatedly whispered in my ear by people who are probably afraid that I would quit my current job, how boring and horrible it is to work at Bloomberg. And I think they're afraid that I might just one day be like, you know what? I'll just go work at Bloomberg.
I mean, everything I know about it is like you could work at a lot worse places and you get paid a lot and you can retire early.
So you got any news?
Yeah, so lately, there's 360 video, which is when you have a YouTube video where you can drag and look around, right? Has been coming a lot hotter because there's a lot of cheap cameras now that you can buy that are basically 2 wide-angle cameras back-to-back on a stick.
Yep, it's not like the old days where you literally like make a rig and then stitch it all together.
Well, now they've got like GoPros doing a thing where it's like 4 GoPros all together, right? Or
I saw
5
a guy.
GoPros.
I saw a guy the other day biking.
And he had one of those?
He had one of those. He was biking around like Fide-Eye.
Yeah, why not? So it's actually, these things are getting cheaper and cheaper to get to make the 360 videos, which are kind of fun. You can do cool things with them, right? I saw a music video that was made with one where all the people in the music video were like standing around it. So you could like look at the different band members, right? Like look at the guitarist over here, and then you turn around and look, and you could see what someone's doing when like they're not the center of attention, right? And then I've seen stuff where like, someone goes on a tour of a city and it's like you're on the tour bus and you can look around and at the different sites on your own by clicking and dragging the mouse. So 360 video it's okay. And with VR doing head tracking, it's even better, right? Because then you don't have to keep clicking and dragging and stuff, right? You can sort of naturally look about, and that feels like you're in a place that you're not, and that that's cool. But thing with 360 video is that until now, it's just been recorded, and then you take all the cameras and combine the data after the fact and then upload it, right?
Yep.
YouTube is now adding a feature, the first ever I've ever seen, live streaming 360 video.
The example they show is already perfect because it's not just video, it also has the 3-dimensional audio.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, like the example they show is there's a jazz concert live for 1 million people, and every one of you, every member of the audience is sitting on the middle of the stage just with the band playing for them, and you can just look around and hear all the audio.
Yep. So live streaming 360 video, it's like, man, I need to subscribe to some channels and get some alerts of when people are going to be doing 360 live streams in various awesome places.
I want the NHL to put this rig in like the best seat at MSG.
Dude, you could take the 360 cameras, they're so small, you could put a wide angle lens on the front of someone's helmet and on the back of someone's helmet.
Oh, you could be
live during the game. You could just be somewhat like the quarterback or whoever in any sport, right?
I just want to be in the crowd. I just want to be sitting in the best seat at MSG.
And you need to look. You need to look behind you.
Yeah, I'll look behind me and see like whatever drunk guy having a fight.
They could just put 4. They could put like 8 360 cameras just like in the stands, and you just pick which one you want to watch the game from.
Yeah, couple that with an Oculus or something.
And if there's a fight in the stands, you can look behind you and be like, "Oh, who's fighting up?"
It'll be great if the drunk attacks the camera.
Make the home viewing experience the same as the stadium experience. You could actually get rid of stands entirely one day and just play sports in much smaller spaces and just have 360 cameras like around the edge of the ring.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been talking to people who work in VR companies a lot, and the expectation. I got stuff we'll talk about on Tuesday's show.
Right. The 360 thing makes spectation a big deal at anything that's not, just forward facing, right? Think about like, I work for Broadway.com. There's a lot of Broadway shows where you're not just looking at the stage the whole time, right? Like in Cats, the cats come out in the audience, and in Phantom of the Opera, they got the chandelier.
No, Scott, here's the one.
Chandelier
Here's the
comes
one.
over the top. Right?
What? There's something, you probably forgot about this, but there's... Remember we used to watch Penn and Teller's shows and stuff and all that like a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
And how they always talked about how the best form of magic, like the most amazing thing to see, is the close-up magic, which is hard to get because the close-up magic is someone as good as like Penn Jillette literally sitting in front of just you, messing around and doing a trick in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You could have people doing close-up magic to these rigs.
I mean, but I don't see how that really enhances it that much unless part of the magic trick is behind you.
Well, it's not just looking behind you. It's that you've got this sphere of your sort of presence.
You could use a wide-angle lens facing forward. The whole point of the 360 camera, we already have 180 cameras. That's not a big deal. The whole point of the 360 camera is that something behind you is going on, right? That there's a reason to look around. If it's close-up magic, you're only looking at this person right in front of you. Right? I don't see how it's...
So you discount how powerful the effect is if you move your head a little bit and the world moves correctly.
Yeah.
Like that effect is very profound in humans because of our biology and how easily tricked our brains are.
There needs to be things in all 360 degrees in order for a 360-degree camera to be worthwhile.
I mean, even this concert, what's going to be directly behind you? Some other jackass watching the concert.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But see how that's the example is not a normal concert. How often at a concert are you in the middle of the bed with music coming from all sides? Right? Imagine if every human being could, like, say, shrink themselves to be really small. we wouldn't make a symphony on a stage. We would have a symphony surrounding you facing inwards. It would sound way better.
Arrangements would have to be changed a little bit, actually.
Well, I think you just have it, it depends how many people you had, right? It's like you'd have like one violin equally spread out in every direction, or maybe like, you get like, how they have in New York City and a lot of places, like the whistling bench and the whistling arches. You could set it up like that. So like even though the timpani's in the corner, you can hear it on all the sides because it's whistling basically, effectively. Because you don't need 4 timpanis, right? That's a little ridiculous. That'd be like boom, 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 boom. You're like, oh, fuck me. I can't hear anything else with these 4 fucking timpanis.
Things of the day. So if you didn't know, Pyongyang in North Korea.
A place you should not go.
Ever.
Don't go there. Maybe one day you can go there. Like you can go to Cuba now.
It has a subway.
Right, but do not go there until I say you can go there. That's because by the time I say you can go there, it'll definitely be safe to go there.
So only recently were foreigners ever allowed inside Pyongyang's subway except like one station.
Mm-hmm. The shiny one that looked good and had actors in it.
So this is a photojournal with a lot of pictures. This is basically the first group of foreigners who have ever been allowed to see the entirety of the Pyongyang metro system. Mm-hmm. Every station.
Do people actually use it, or is it just for show?
I think people actually use it, but remember, the people in Pyongyang.
I remember hearing it was just for show, and that like they saw people like, oh no, I think it was the regular train station. They got off the train because they came in the train from China or Russia or whatever.
Yeah.
And that when they got off at the train station, there were people about the train station, but there weren't any trains leaving or arriving other than the one that they had just arrived on. So there were no reason for any people to be in that train station that day.
But Pyongyang is sort of like the propaganda city, so it like people live there, the privileged few, or I guess the most trusted or best looking or whatever.
I'm sure their lives are not great when there's no foreigners around.
No, but this is a lot of photos, and they're fascinating just from all the subway stations.
It looks like every other photos I've seen of North Korea before, but
you've never seen inside of here.
I haven't seen those particular ones, but the propaganda looks the same. It's all the same style.
The most interesting notes about this
their escalator works, their trains work.
The trains themselves look straight out of like East Germany.
Yeah,
like Cold War.
It takes Dracula. It's a lot harder for him to get around on those trains.
And 2, in almost every photo, there's at least one, if not multiple people, giving the photographer the fucking death stare. Like, people are not happy that this person is there. It is side-eye after side-eye after side-eye.
Maybe it's just because they have to act while that person's there and they can't.
Well, I posit another idea that if you live in North Korea, you are told your entire life that foreigners, particularly Americans, are the reason your lives are filled with such terror and privation.
Then why are they allowed in your country?
So
wouldn't you just murder them on sight?
You see one being escorted around by North Korean security forces for whatever reason, and it'd be like if, I don't know, today...
I mean, if I saw someone being escorted around the city by the security forces, usually the security forces in the city are just sort of standing there, doing their jobs, doing nothing.
Yep.
If I saw them escorting someone, I'd probably rubberneck a bit and be like, oh, who did they arrest and for what reason?
So, Scott, what if a bunch of people who just looked like Nazi Hitlers were walking around taking photos in the subway suddenly, and there's a bunch of cops just like walking them around and guiding them, and no other context?
I'd assume that the cops were keeping me from killing them, which is
the
probably correct.
This is a fascinating...
In fact, that happens in the United States. Like when the KKK people, get a thing, like a license to have like a rally or something.
Illinois Nazis?
Right. The cops have to be there no matter how much they hate them because they got to protect them from, the smart people. That's how it goes. And, the cops aren't approving of them. It's just if you have your protest that's anti-KKK and the KKK protest, the cops will protect you from them also.
So you got a thing of the day?
I do have a thing of the day. So there was that new Godzilla movie that came out in the U.S. a while ago, a year or two ago. It's been a while, actually. But the new Godzilla movie is directed by Hideaki Anno. Dun dun!
I saw Twitter flipping out about that trailer.
Did you watch the trailer?
I did not.
Well, that's my thing of the day, so we're going to watch it now. So this trailer, basically, I watched the trailer and I said, wow, you didn't even need to tell me this was directed by Anno. In fact, I didn't know until after watching the trailer. And I noticed while I was watching the trailer, like there's a scene in the beginning where some glass shatters. And when the glass shattered, I'm like, that really looks like a building falling apart in, say, Akira or Evangelion. That particular way they animate the buildings smashing, but done in live action, right? And then there was a scene where there's a lot of tail action, right? Where the tail goes over these Japanese buildings in the street and the camera pans across right? And I was like, that really seemed like, which angel had like the whippy arms?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that really feels like that scene. Like, I feel like I've seen this shot before. And then when I saw Godzilla, it was a really scary Godzilla, right? But he's got those T-Rex arms, and they were extra T-Rex arms, like, and I was like, that reminds me of when I watched Aoi Hono, and the person who was the actor who was playing Ano was doing a Godzilla impression and had that exact same body language.
Oh, I gotta finish that show.
I wonder if that person saw Ano doing a Godzilla impression and stole that body language for his acting, and Ano also put his own his idea of how Godzilla's body language
Ano
should be.
see blue blazes and think it was funny, and then
I don't know, but it was definitely the same body language in both Blue Blazes and this Godzilla.
Or Scott, is it possible that's just Godzilla's body language?
I think I think that that Godzilla's body language is that, but it's like it has like this flavor, right? The seasoning of it. The raw material is still beef, but the seasoning is definitely the seasoning of the crazy guy. So I'm going to see this shit as soon as it gets English subtitles, good or awful.
So in the meta moment, the book club book will be Margaret Atwood, Oryx, and Crake. I'm biking to work every day, so God, I don't know when I'm going to read anything anymore.
I'm about to start it.
Yep, I'm pretty much done with that.
There's
last
only
Wheel of Time
only
book.
one manga sitting on top of it.
I learned a lot of stuff about Rand Altor, and stuff happened, so I'll move on to another book for a while. I'll let that sit.
Good.
We're going to be at PAX East this weekend.
Yeah, so don't expect a show Wednesday.
No show Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna Thursday I'm getting on the bus.
Tabletop.
And Monday I'm coming on the bus back. I'm gonna be working in the tabletop night shift, so that is the time to come and play some games when I'm not there to play games with you and beat you.
I will on the night shift.
If you want to lose at games, feel free to play games at any other hour. If you want to win at games, play at night when I can't play with you.
I will be working the VR lounge. Which is the new
that's
thing.
a shame.
I think it'll be fun.
I think that's going to be Handheld Lounge.
It's the weird
2.
department.
It's Handheld Lounge 2, I think.
I'm trying to do the circuit. My goal as a PAX enforcer is to do everything. I mean,
that's
I
your
black
excuse.
shifted
That's
once.
your excuse now.
Yeah, I've always got every year in
That's
the
the
forum.
way to make yourself feel good about working in a shit department.
Every year in the forum.
You regret not just being tabletop all the time, like smart people.
Tabletop seems like more work than other
Tabletop
departments.
is great. It's the best department.
Main events was real fun. Live streaming was fun before I didn't get to sit in the room anymore. Back when I got to be PAX 2 on the video all the time. Be like,
when you go to PAX, if you're not working, where do you spend most of your time?
Playing games in tabletop.
So, what's the difference?
Not playing games. I'm walking around being a presence.
Sure. Being a presence is good. You can tell people how to win. Go up to someone, and they're playing Carcassonne, and they're about to put the tile in a real dumbass place, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing right there? Put it over there. Don't let him finish that cathedral. You got to aim a road right at the heart.
On Sunday, 3:30 p.m., Arachnid Theater, we are doing Atari game design.
We've done it before, man.
The thing is, we've never put it on YouTube. So you can't see it unless
Why didn't you put it on
effects.
YouTube? You recorded like twice.
Yeah, I'm going to do it again. Maybe we'll see if we put it on
didn't do good
YouTube.
enough the other times?
We did, except the Atari video. We didn't record the Atari video. We didn't actually video anything.
I thought you were doing that with some ODB. Not ODB.
Yeah.
OBS.
But the second time, we didn't even record it. We just didn't bother.
Dude, ODB should record some Atari games. I think he's dead, though. Pretty sure he's dead.
So PAX is going to be awesome. We're going to be there. We'll see you in Boston.
Yep.
Also, on the Patreon, I did put up, we hit that goal. So the first episode of Geek Nights ever, the beta, with commentary remastered, is in the Patreon for the backers. But publicly, for anyone to listen to, I put just the commentary because I listened to the whole episode. And I did about 16 minutes worth of commentary. And Scott, I said there's something in the commentary. We recorded a bunch of stuff before the first beta episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this. Do you?
No.
Because in the episode, at one point, we say something like, well, we listened to what we recorded yesterday and blah, blah, blah. But I'm literally listening to the first audio file we ever made, as far as I can remember.
You must have lost one.
I get the impression we recorded a bunch of stuff in the alpha and maybe we just agreed to delete it? Like, I don't remember. I just wondered if you remembered that.
I don't know. I went to go to my backups recently to find some software I wrote in college, and I found everything. And so if your backups are not as good as mine, that's not my problem.
2005, it was October 11th is the first Geek Nights file
You're the one who
have.
backed up all these things, not me.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, but we called it the beta.
Also, since I'm not paying for the Patreon, I don't have these. I can't get the files. Give me
you
the
can listen to
files.
them. You can listen to them.
I'm not paying you any money. Just
No, you've got the backup. You can just listen to the file. You even know the fucking URL.
I thought you found one that was even older that wasn't at the URL.
Oh yeah, I can give you that one.
Oh, okay.
You just don't get to listen to them remastered unless you pay.
Oh no, remastered.
It took me a while. It was hard to remaster that shit.
You shouldn't
It was
have.
actually really hard to remaster that shit. And let me tell you,
Smells like ramen.
I am really pleased with how well I was able to remaster that audio. Because if you hear what it sounded like originally, it is almost unlistenable.
Does it smell like ramen?
Yeah, Emily's cooking in there.
Is it ramen?
I don't know. It's food.
It smells like
Smells
ramen.
some food cooking.
Anyway.
So there's been a lot of stories about ransomware or cryptoware lately, to the point that I feel like we should at least explain a little bit about what the deal is there.
Well, I mean, this is something that just sort of, this is one of those things that escaped being a show topic because it's just so common and so sort of like, it's never like spikes, right? It's always just like, there's always one once in a while, and you tend to just sort of, it's just like a fact of life.
Well, it also wasn't that common until the last few years. Like, so if you talk
It's definitely
about,
been happening more, but it never happens like a whole bunch in a very short period of time.
it's
like,
also one of those things where we always said years and years ago, why doesn't someone just do this with a virus? Like, why don't you make some money?
someone is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So viruses in the old day were harmless pranks and fun.
Or some of them would just like destroy your computer.
Yeah,
Like,
but then they got to the point where people would make viruses that would like literally just like ruin all your data, delete random files, like literally destroy your life.
and then we got to the stage where viruses and malware wouldn't actually do any of that. They would monitor you borrow your CPU cycle, send spam with your computer, do all sorts of other things.
Yep.
That would basically just make money and let your computer keep running and hope you keep using your computer, because as long as your computer keeps working and you keep it turned on, they make more money by using it. Maybe in like a zombie army to DDoS people
Yep.
or who knows what.
Now, what's interesting is even in that era, very rarely did they try to steal like credit card numbers or things. Like they did like spam bots or whatever. And then we entered the era after that where most malware was literally just trying to steal your credit card number
Yeah,
or
why
steal
not?
your bank account number.
But
and-
now credit card numbers aren't even worth a lot of money on like the evil black market, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can just buy credit cards. It's passports, physical ones are worth a lot of money, but that's hard to steal with a software.
So ransomware, I think part of the reason it had a big up and coming, like the reason we're seeing it more
It's
and
the
more,
best way to make money.
it's only a way to make money because Bitcoins are still worth some amount of money.
That's
because
true.
If you wanted to make a ransomware before Bitcoin, someone's got to send you the money somehow.
And that's tough to do.
Yeah, what are you gonna
without
do? What are you gonna be
revealing
like,
yourself? You
go
gonna
to
do the
Seattle.
old? Are you gonna do the old suitcase, briefcase of money next to the trash can thing?
Yep, mail cash to this PO box. Like you're gonna get caught.
Good luck with that.
It's a lot of work. You might as well just do a 419
Bitcoin
scam.
allows you to hold people's stuff for ransom and then get money from them in the form of Bitcoins without the police finding you.
So the most basic ransomware, and then we'll talk about, because Scott was like, how could you get gotten by this if you're not dumb? And the answer is, you really can't.
Yeah.
But there are ways to make ransomware dangerous, even to relatively smart and sophisticated people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing it get really sophisticated in a hurry. So basic ransomware is as such. You get some sort of virus.
Because you did something stupid. Like
Yep.
you downloaded an email attachment, or you went to a shady website and clicked on something shady.
Now, it's
or ran an
possible-
EXE from download.com.
Now, it is possible to get these things through, a 0-day exploit where there's nothing you could do.
Right, that would be, but still, a 0-day exploit wouldn't be on Google.com. It would be you went in your unpatched browser, right, on the 0-day. There is no patch yet, but you visited a shady ass website that
Except
was running
well,
the 0-day.
like some legit websites have hosted this through their ad networks. You got to also run ad
You
block.
didn't have ad blocker, right?
Yep.
You're a dumb person.
But what they do is they get on your computer, and then they take all your files and start encrypting them. They have
Yeah.
a little private key locally.
Yeah, they'd run something that's basically just like TrueCrypt, the thing that you would normally use to encrypt your hard drive, but they just start encrypting your drive.
So they'll
and-
encrypt like my documents.
But everything still works because when you double click on a file, it decrypts it. You might not notice it is slower, but you might not notice how it being slower because your computer's pretty fast.
yeah, and then once it's encrypted
And
everything,
you're not using your disk that much.
it pops up the screen, and it's like, all right, dude, I encrypted all your shit. Send 1 Bitcoin to this address within 48 hours, or I'm deleting the private key and your data is literally unrecoverable.
See, if they just deleted all your stuff, you would first of all, you'd notice immediately. And second of all, how could they ransom you? Like, oh, we'll give you your data back? It's like it's already gone. But by encrypting all of it, it's like, aha, we have basically taken your data hostage. And now you must pay us to unencrypt it, because if you find the key after we delete the key, good luck with that.
Yep. Now, if it's well written, because there's been a few instances recently where smart people who are doing, basically doing white hat hacking.
Right, you could just, first of all, if they use that method, right, they haven't deleted the key yet, you could unplug the computer real fast, take the drive out, connect to the drive, find the key that's on there somewhere, and then use it to decrypt your stuff.
Now,
right?
what if the key itself is encrypted?
It's right, but it's easier. The key would be encrypted with something like AES, right? So it's a symmetric key and not a public-private key.
Yep, because there's
so
some passcode.
Even though it's very difficult to crack, it won't be impossible, and most likely, I can't imagine it being such a complicated key. You would be able to eventually rescue if your data was important enough to decrypt, you would do it, and if it wasn't important enough, who cares, right?
Now, not talking about us, but think about a normal person using their computer, and suddenly it's like, hey, dog, all your files, what do you do? Cause
you don't even know how to get a Bitcoin and send it, so you're fucked.
Yeah, well, so actually, these ransomwares usually provide very clear instructions on how to buy Bitcoins, where to buy them. They provide helpful links, documentation. Some of them have helps and facts.
I mean, you could really, if you've infected the person's computer this much, you could really just do everything automatically for them and just be like, enter credit card info here to buy the Bitcoin.
Yep.
And then they click OK, and then here's your computer. All right, and then I'd be like, oh, thanks for your credit card info. Now I'm just buy all the Bitcoins I want with it.
I would make one where once you give the Bitcoin, it'd be like, yeah, just kidding, 10 more Bitcoins.
I would be like, you'd have to type, I'd be just like, you type the credit card in, and I'll just buy Bitcoins up to your credit card limit and give them to myself, the end.
And then not even decrypt the guy's stuff.
And then sell your credit card number to somebody, too, to make an extra buck.
But these are highly effective.
And if you if you stop the payment, then I'll remove it to re-encrypt your computer, right?
But they're highly effective if you don't have proper backups. And when I say backups, not redundancy, because if you have a RAID, these things are getting more sophisticated.
We did a show about this a long time ago, so you can go listen to that, where we talk about the different levels of backing up, right? And no information in that show, despite it being really old, has really changed, right?
Yeah.
If you have your data backed up, like if someone gave me ransomware on my computer today and was like, we encrypted all the hard drives in my computer, and there's a lot of them, I'd be like, okay, so what are you going to do? Oh, no, there's a bunch of games I installed. I can't get those from Steam again. Oh, there's a bunch of other apps. Okay, what file is on there that I can't get back? All the things that I've backed up are backed up in like 2 different cloud services and my NAS.
Yep, like say
even if they could access my NAS and encrypted that, it's like, okay, I've got it in the cloud still. You can't access that.
If your NAS is mounted, they can and they will, actually. They'll mount every file system and encrypt it.
Sure, go for it. Okay, I got my cloud backup. You can't get there.
Yep, I literally drag my entire 2 terabyte NAS up to Amazon Cloud Drive every month. Just the whole thing. I just do a snapshot of it.
It's like, you can't, right? So then if someone did this to me, I'm like, all right, it'll be a pain in the ass, but it won't be a big deal.
But so even if it got me in the middle of a workflow, like say I have 40 gigabytes of video from Scott on an SD card, and I've copied it to my local hard drive,
and we haven't uploaded it to the cloud yet.
Yeah. Or like I just started uploading it to the cloud drive, but the ransomware has infected me already.
Well, I'm holding the SD card. I guess the ransomware could get the SD card while it's plugged in.
If the SD card is still plugged in.
Oh no, we lost a panel video. The end of the world. It's totally worth a Bitcoin. Not.
So then it comes down to, what are you willing to pay for that data? Or are
I'm willing to pay $1 for this panel video.
It depends. If it was a good panel, I'd be willing to pay up to like $50.
That's all you. I'm paying 1 and 0.
But think about it's
the other thing is that it's paying terrorists is not a good strategy because that encourages them to continue. If no one's getting paid off of it, they'll stop.
But that's why these ransomwares tend to ask for a significant amount of money, but not a huge amount of money. They never ask for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're always like $50, $100.
Yep.
You're gonna risk like every photo you have of your kid for $100. So
don't fuck up.
What's very interesting is that this ransomware has started to get a little more widespread, and that they're starting to get into enterprise environments. So
shouldn't the enterprise environment have backups?
Yeah, but if the backup is mounted or mounted by, accessible from the computer, it'll encrypt that too.
I mean, usually, even if you have a shared drive that everyone has mounted, that's usually backed up somewhere else, right?
Yep.
To the cloud or to another storage machine or something. NAS,
so I guess
I don't know.
I haven't seen an example of this yet. Now, I've seen some pretty sophisticated ones. So a lot of these to force you to be able, so basically to force you to just pay, they will give you like a 1 hour countdown. Like, yo, you've got an hour. You're not sure what we've encrypted. You've got an hour to pay the Bitcoin or we delete the key. Like that kind of thing. Like literally counting down in front of you. Some of them will do that.
I'll just unplug the computer.
So if you unplug the computer, maybe they've already deleted the key, but the key was transmitted to the overseas server. They won't send you a copy of it unless
Good
you
for
pay.
them. Good move.
Yeah. So you could make this stuff really sophisticated. If you want to be really clever, you'd have to, I mean, you could probably make one that would encrypt all the files and keep encrypting all the backups you're taking if it had a way to do that.
Right. That's the thing is if you take backups, frequently, right, or enough, if the ransomware is dormantly encrypting things for a long enough time,
eventually your oldest backup falls off.
Right. Eventually all your backups are encrypted too, and you don't realize it.
Now,
Which is why you need to test your backups and make sure they work.
Yep, and almost no one does that.
Nope.
And when I did that...
I do that.
At my previous company, when we did that, we'd find a bad backup every now and then, which was good, because if we never found a bad backup, I'd be worried that we weren't actually testing.
The thing that does our database backups also, not only does it MySQL dump, it also loads them into a database to make sure they work.
Yep. But the ransomware is, I think, going to explode on the scene increasingly because it is actually...
Right, it's already been, like tech people, it was there, then it was, now it's like an everyday thing. If it's an everyday thing for tech people, soon expect to see it getting all over everybody who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
I've seen it hitting hospitals. I've seen it hitting like big companies internally where, even if you've got a pretty good company, there's always the trade-off between how much you lock down your PCs versus do you trust your employees.
Yep.
If you trust the wrong person, malware upends. Oh, that guy had access to the backups. Oh.
Well, it's not even that. It's like if even if your employees' computers are way locked down and shit, right? You don't let them install stuff. Hopefully that would prevent the ransomware from getting them in the first place. But if it doesn't because of some zero-day nonsense, maybe that person just has bad habits and like they're in accounting and they saved a bunch of Excel sheets on their hard drive and that's it.
Yep.
They didn't back them up and you can't make them back them up.
Scott, it's funny you
easily.
mentioned that. So one of the examples, I just pulled up a ton of like examples.
And now your whole company needs those Excel sheets that are encrypted.
I pulled up all these examples from from just recently, just so I'd have like interesting points.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Petya ransomware, which is targeting HR departments in Germany specifically. And because it's looking for that kind of situation of the HR person has a bunch of spreadsheets that they keep locally. They back it up occasionally. Like they're not stupid, but it's not automatically backed up. It's a thing just like on their PC.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes one step further than just encrypting. It crashes your PC into a BSOD suddenly once it's done. And then when it tries to boot up, it's encrypted the master boot record and all your data. So
you have to take that drive out and mount it on a Linux machine or something.
Yep. Because 0 days exist, you pretty much cannot prevent 100% of the ways this could get a computer. The only way to absolutely protect yourself from ransomware is to have good, reliable, automated backups and redundancy.
See, but you know what? That's actually that's actually kind of okay, right? Because you think about it, a lot of other things, like we're just going to blow up your hard drive. It's like if there's a 0 day, you're just fucked.
Yeah.
But something like this, it's like, oh, you know what? Backups are something you should be doing anyway.
But if you didn't, you're basically paying a tax to a terrorist to get your photos back.
Sure, right? I mean, they're evil for sure. I'm not going to say ransomware people are good.
But at least they actually give you the files back.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, sometimes. I found another example where there's a ransomware that had a bug in it. So it actually wouldn't decrypt the files properly. It would just give you gibberish. but someone like inspected the code and it looks like it's literally just a bug. So from what I can gather, the guy who wrote the malware, the person who wrote the malware released a patch because they felt bad.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, they refunded the money of anyone who paid, who fucked up, like who lost their data, and they released a patch so if they still had the messed up data, it would fix it for them. So you know what? There's a little bit of honor left among thieves, like the tiniest bit.
We are punishing people who don't make maybe it's just a huge campaign to get everyone to make backups.
Except I used to advocate for that in high school. I was like, why don't I just write a malware that just nukes your computer and just gives you, and it fills your computer with nothing but pamphlets on how to have computer security.
Sure.
Yeah. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
And the patrons for this episode of Geek Nights, in order of the amount of money they give us on a continuing basis, are Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brandow, Alan Joyce, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian, my girlfriend's last name is Kuntz, Jess, MyStadia.com, Sean Hayworth, Mechanical Mind, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Spartacus, Kimberly Batchelor, Kajar Tavishan, Joshua Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Testing Your Memory Schleich, I remember you, Sean Yeager, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Solverod, Can't Melt Steel Beams, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, The North Remembers, Sam Cordry, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. We literally just recorded the March Q&A, so submissions are open for the April one, and we'll actually record it before the end of the month for once. It was 10 questions, and they were actually pretty good, and I think it was a good episode that we did. We're not going to do a show on Wednesday because we're heading out early Thursday morning to PAX, so instead I'm going to put that up and expect a whole bunch of Patreon content right after we get from PAX because there's no more convention stuff for us to do until Kineticon and then PAX Prime and PAX Aus and all that biz. So now I leave you with something strange.
In the 26th century, mankind faces an epic struggle for survival. The forces of nature have spun wildly out of control. Mighty cities have crumbled, and the dinosaurs have returned to reclaim the earth. In this savage land, one man stands alone, Jack Tenrek, defending humanity in a world gone mad. A world where only the strong survive. A world of Cadillacs and dinosaurs.
Thing that's going around, right?
Yeah.
And because I knew about this a long time ago, right? As I tend to know about a lot of things in advance because I internet so much. But what happens is I'll be like, man, there's this thing. I knew about it before you. I'm so cool, like a hipster. But in this case, I was so wrong. I was the wrongest that you could be.
All right.
When I first saw Baby Metal, which was like, I think they started like way back when they were in like middle school. And at that point, they were in middle school, they were really small, and they didn't have a band or anything. It was actually sort of like an offshoot of like a regular old idol group or whatever. Right? And when I first saw it, it was pretty much just, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's a weird Japan thing. I've seen those like a million times. I mean, how many Japan things like that have we seen?
That was the era where Weird Japan was just like an even regular old pop culture.
Right. It's like you always see, oh, there's another thing that's weird from Japan. They combined two things that hadn't been combined before, or they took something from someone else and redid it, right?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, they made an idol group that happens to have metal music in the background. That's a cute one-shot thing, right? And then, I saw it again. And I'm like, maybe like 2 years ago, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I saw it again. And I'm like, I guess that kept going, that thing, right? It's still not really a big deal, right? It's
a weird thing. It's not commonly known.
It's just it's just a J-pop idol group that's not good. It's like Perfect Blue, only it's metal, right? Big deal, right? So, and they, they were like, I know that they opened when like Lady Gaga had this weird tour in 2014, I think, that was like the art pop tour, the art rave or something, because Crayon Pop opened for that. And like she originally wanted Crayon Pop to open for the whole thing, but they couldn't. So Baby Metal opened for the other ones, right? And I was like, oh, I guess they're still around, right? But I didn't really
Curious
care.
where this is going.
Right, I didn't care or like them at all, right? So then, of course, recently, I'm sure now everyone knows who they are because they performed on Colbert's show, which used to be Letterman's show, which has a history, actually, if people aren't aware, of letting weird acts perform at the end of the show. Like, going back to, like, Pee Wee Herman and even earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people became famous, in the United States because their weird-ass act was able to perform on that show, regardless of who was hosting it, right? So now everyone knows who they are. So because they came back again, and like this is like I've seen them now multiple times over the years, I was like, why? Like I was like, why are they still here?
It's Monday, April 18th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, crypto ransomware and why it can really only fuck you if you're dumb.
Let's do this.
Oh my god, it's
warm.
Yeah, it was
warm
it was
today.
warm, and then it was cold, it was warm, and it was cold, then I thought it was summer, then it snowed, and finally, not only is it warm, but it was like 80 degrees today, and I biked to work. In fact, I didn't even do, usually there's a bunch of stuff I do to my bike, because I grease it up in the winter, because I do use it occasionally, salt and all that nastiness, so I put heavy grease on, and then I switch it for summer grease in the spring. I hadn't done the switch up yet, because the weather had been coming and going, but it was so nice today, I was like, fuck it, and I just biked to work anyway, and halfway through the bike ride, of course, squeaky, 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 squeaky. So I stopped and bought some Teflon and lubed it up, and it's spring now, and we bike to work every day. I feel real good.
So, I'm sure at this point in time, was it like 2015, 2016 now?
It's
right?
2016.
Yeah, people have heard like this Baby Metal thing. The drummer used to be in the Blue Man Group, and the bassist is like this complete...
Used to be in the Blue Man Group is not as significant.
It's not easy to be in the Blue Man Group.
I know, but I'm saying there's a lot of them.
You got to be talented to be in that
I'm saying
shit.
there's a lot of them. Like, there's a lot of skilled percussionists in the world.
He's really good, right?
I'm not saying he's not.
The bassist is some crazy sick
there's a lot of blue men.
Dude. There are many, yes. But anyway, right? So they got like the totally like the sickest band that you could get of Japanese musicians or whatever. But like if you go online and look for performances that aren't, say, on late night American TV, it's like they've been performing at like gigantic music festival in the UK with like 100,000 metalheads and shit, right? And I realized watching this that like, oh my God, this was the secret that all the other Japanese shit has not been able to do, right? It's like if you look at like, you go to the comic book store, for example, right? And you see the manga, and the manga is separate, right? It's not with the other comics. It's Japanese comics. It's Japanese first and comics second.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. So they were just popular among metal people, but not as a Japanese weird thing, just as metal.
Yes, every metal band has a gimmick, right? Blind Guardian has a Lord of the Rings gimmick, right? Right? This is like a one-shot gimmick deal, right? Isn't this a gimmick? How is this gimmick continuing to last?
Well, is it a gimmick if you're the only one? I mean, they're not quite Guar level of like having the Legend of Krauser happening there.
That is how I was wrong. Because after they appeared on Colbert, I said, why are they still here, this gimmick? Why is this not gone? This one-shot deal. So I looked into it. And secretly, without me noticing, for these past 2 years, they have done something that I didn't realize could be done, right?
All right.
And that is, they are not what I thought they were. I thought that they were a Japanese idol group that happened to have metal music in the background, right? Of their regular idol songs and whatever, right? That is not what they are. Baby Metal is actually a completely legit metal band that happens to have Japanese idols.
Wait, so you'd never listen to them? Like you never...
No. It's not, it's not the music that is legit, right? Well, first of all, when they got a band to back them up instead of just like a recording, that helped a lot because the band that backs them up known as the Kami band, right? The God band is like literally they went around Japan and got like the best drummer, the best guitars, the best people that they could find, right? And they made this band. Like